My name is Lynn, and I call myself a voice crying in the wilderness because I am not a pastor. I am not a anything but a storyteller. And when John the Baptist went out to preach about Jesus, he went out in the wilderness, and he had a chance to be a priest like his father, but he said, "No, I'm just a voice." And so he went out to the wilderness and he preached to Jesus, and he baptized a lot of people before Jesus came. He baptized them with water, and then Jesus came and baptized them with the Spirit as well. But the reason that I feel like I'm just a voice is because I have a message to tell, and this message is about stories, about how Jesus spoke to the people in stories. And there is nothing easier to understand than stories. There's nothing more compelling. If you get the vision of children sitting around their parents and their parents telling them a story, sometimes people are too busy now for that to happen, but if you can get that impression, that's what Jesus was doing to the people. He was telling them stories so that they would come close to him, so that they would draw close to him. And so that is what this channel is about. It's about telling what Jesus said, what he told everybody in stories, and also to tell about the stories in the Old Testament that happened before Jesus came, the ones that actually kind of predicted him coming, and that it happened to show that Jesus was the Son of God and he was the Messiah when he came, that they understood then what it was. To just tell you about the Old Testament and the New Testament. And the Old Testament has quite a few books in it, and the New Testament has quite a few books in it. And so we're just going to take a few each time. The Old Testament books were Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy. So if you're kids, you can remember that, and that'll be, that those are the first part of the Bible. Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy. So Genesis was the story of Adam and Eve, and we'll get into that later. Exodus is when they left, and the Exodus, and Leviticus, and Numbers, and Deuteronomy, those are all about different things. So we'll cover some of those things as we go on. Then in the New Testament, which is a little bit easier to understand, it's got Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, and Acts, Romans, and 1st and 2nd Corinthians. Now, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John were the disciples, and Acts was the actions of what they did, and Romans was the Roman people, and 1st and 2nd Corinthians was in the area of the Corinth. So those are some of the places that the Bible talks about, that they're real places, and places that are nowadays where we hear things on the news about them, and these were really places. So they didn't just they weren't just so old-fashioned that they weren't real. They were real places. There are a lot more in the Bible, of the books of both the Old Testament and the New Testament. So that isn't just a comprehensive list. I just did the first ones so that you could have your chance to remember some of them. Open it up, and you'll see in the first part of it, it'll have all the books. And it starts out with the Old Testament, and then it goes into the New Testament. But most every Bible has that there, so you can find it. And it has the page number on it too. So if you have to look something up that I'm talking about, you can find the book that I'm talking about and find it. And it has the page number. And when you look up in a Bible, you look up the chapter, and then it has a verse. So you might say Romans 3 and 2. That means Romans chapter 3 and verse 2. And that's how it's written. So when you're trying to find something and you hear it, Romans 3, 2, then you look for chapter 3 first, and then you look for verse 2 then after that. I'm new to YouTube, so you'll have to bear with me, but I really appreciate children. I'm a teacher, and I hope to teach a little bit about the Bible for those that don't know anything. I want to actually teach for those that have never heard of the Bible, and also for children who maybe haven't had the chance of having a parent that can share with them about the Bible, or even with people who maybe have eyesight that have a problem. My husband has eyesight problems now, and I have to read to him. And those kind of things, this is what this channel is about, is to share with you the words of Jesus, but doing them in stories. So I hope you enjoy this channel, and I hope you come back.